Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for today's episode. This is actually my second episode. I'm sorry because my uptake of the episodes is very calculated, but very soon I'm going to expedite the rate at which I am making presentations in this channel. Yeah, but as you know, we are just new to this thing and we are pulling up our socks. We are rolling our sleeves and tightening up our belts. And I believe we are equal to this task. And therefore, today, I just want to speak about something that I have really noticed. It's something that has really eaten into our financial life. It's something that has really consumed us up. And I think that it is important we learn a few things about debts. And therefore, today, I would want to talk about why we should be able to avoid personal debts in our lives. I know even the people I am talking to today, the person I'm talking to right now, potentially has a debt somewhere, which has taken years and ages to pay back, which has been giving them a hell of time. But I think that when we have a very honest conversation about how we can be able to manage our debts and as well avoid them in totality, then it could be a discussion worthy our time. And therefore, without wasting more time, I would want to just delve into that matter so that you guys may understand the reason why you're supposed to avoid these debts as much as you can. Now, take a case. Imagine you just woke up, you didn't have anything to eat, and then you felt like, if you don't take something, for yourself, you're going to suffer. And then there you are. You decide there's a friend of yours who you know is well up, and therefore you go with a level of commitment to request them to lend you, let's say 5,000, and you expect 10,000 within a 2 weeks period. Good for you. You talk to them and they agree to give you the 5,000, but you expect 10,000 after 2 weeks. So luckily enough, the 2 weeks are over and you get your 10,000. But in the process, you realize that you still have a bigger hole to fill. Remember, you borrowed 5,000, so you must pay back the 5,000, and you have 5,000, which will remain. Then after doing your simple mathematics, you realize that this money is still very little for you. So you end up not paying your debt. So you pile up that debt, and you tell yourself that now in the next probably installment, I'll be able to leverage on that debt. Unlike you, 12 months later, you owe someone money that you borrowed. Take a case. If you borrowed money to eat and you borrowed money to do business. So I want us to draw the lines between the two. It's okay to ask for something to eat, but is it okay to borrow money to eat? Let's say that you are an employee of government and you earn 100,000, and then during the month you have a hole that you needed to be filled financially of 50,000, so you borrow 50,000. So when the month is over, you still realize that you have a deeper hole of more than 50,000. Here is 100,000. So then you will find out that you will not be able to pay the whole outstanding amount. So you will still end up calling the person you borrowed, the lender, and tell them, you know what, guy, I can only give you 10,000. Please allow me to have some more time, but I will still pay. You will become a slave because every other time that money will follow you, that loan that you borrowed will follow you up. So it is important now for us to understand when is it necessary for us to borrow. I am speaking about this because data from government shows that more than 5 million people had been shortlisted by our credit reference bureaus for defaulting loans which they borrowed from the mobile lending apps and even some banks which lend using the M-Pesa services. This is a time bomb for this country. I am very sure today, and data has shown that if you bring 10 people together, chances are 8 out of 10 have a defaulted loan. And the reason we don't understand, but I have the answer for you. It's because we borrow to eat, we do not borrow to invest. So we focus more on what we eat than what we invest for the future. And that's the problem that this country is suffering from. So we must be disciplined enough to first of all understand our income, to understand our behavioral, or rather our consumption behaviors and the trends. Because unless and until you understand how you consume or how you spend your money, then you'll keep borrowing, you'll keep making the wrong calculations, you'll keep making the wrong financial moves. The reason why we have money is one, for transactional purposes, and that is a major thing because all of us use money on a daily basis. And number two is for precautionary measures, so that in case of a danger or something that has just arisen, you are able to cater for that. And the last one is speculative. Once in a while, you may go out here and find a very, lucrative business opportunity, a very lucrative idea that you could actually buy, in a financial sense. That is the reason why we have money. Now, how often do we have money which has been put in place for transaction, strictly for transaction? How often are we have money which has been set aside for precautionary services? Like you may get sick. So when you get some people, when they get sick, they will run to open a WhatsApp account. They will start now telling people, you know what, you guys, I have been, diagnosed with this disease. I've been bedridden in the hospital, I've been admitted. So guys, help me out to be able to leverage on this, hospital bill of 100,000 of 1,000,000 shillings, and then it becomes very difficult for you. And then you start quarreling around and thinking that, you have the worst of friends. But that is not the case. It is all you mistake. Poor financial planning. How often do we have money which has been set aside for speculative purposes? Opportunities which arise, you've just moved around and then you met a guy who has a deal for you, a very good deal for you, which would essentially give you a kill. But then we say we don't have that money. We fear to even set that money aside because all we want to do is consume and consume and consume. That is very dangerous, and that is what has informed the dangerous levels of borrowing that Kenyans are at right now. It's precarious, financially precarious, for us to ignore the fact that debts will make us slaves. It could be a country, it could be an individual, it could be a business, but debt has potential of making one a slave, because essentially you'll be working for the lender all the time, because that person is threatening you to auction you, is threatening to take you to CRB, and what have you. So debts will put you in a path of slavery, and probably that will lead to poverty in later years in your life. So debt is something that you must be very careful about. Otherwise, it will consume you up like fire consuming up dry grass. Debts will lead to a very poor financial plan. I gave a very good example. You've borrowed some amount of money that you've not been able to pay back. So within some level of time, you are still working to give back that money. So all the time, your plan is out to pay for that money. Why? Because you took the money, you just consumed the money. There was no any investment plan. And it's like you just got money from your pocket and threw it away. That is equivalent to borrowing money that has no business value, that has no accruing value. Just money that you just want to buy food and eat it, or even pay rent. It's very dangerous for you because the next month you will still need to pay that debt equal to your rent, and then you will need some other money equal to your rent. So it's like you'll be paying your rent twice. And many times when we have taken that, that money, when it is time to pay, deep inside us, we find it very difficult to pay the money because the very problem where we took the money is still here with us. But now we've got the money. So the argument is, are we paying the lender or are we paying the rent? For instance, this is just a perfect example that all of us have been in before. Therefore, the answer is, for many people, you will end up concluding to pay the rent, and then the person who lended the money to you, you tell them to wait, or even you'll avoid them like plague. It's very dangerous for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, debt is something that we should try to avoid as much as we can, because that is the clearest path to financial degradation. With proper financial plan, you will have little debt, very or even no debt. But if you're that person who likes consuming and conspicuous or rather conspicuous consumption, you will end up in a deep hole of a debt like you have never heard of. And that will be the beginning of the end for you. You'll never have financial independence because all the time you are living at someone's mercy who has lended you money. It's very dangerous. Very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. And lastly, it is important for us to appreciate that we can live without debts. Really, we can. Take a case when M-Pesa Fuliza was not there. You'd go to the supermarket knowing well that I have 1,000 shillings in my pocket, in my pocket. And therefore, you will just pick items that are commensurate. Their value is commensurate to the amount of money that you have in your pocket. But now, after introduction of Fuliza, what happens? You just go carelessly picking things in the supermarket because after all, even if the bill is higher than what you have in your pocket, you'll say, I can still Fuliza. So we have been weakened in terms of financial mentality by these easy borrowing, avenues that lenders are provided for us. And that is something that is slowly taking us to loss of our financial independence. People used to be disciplined without this borrowing. And I think the discipline must continue so that we regain our financial independence, which remains the most important aspect for any real person who wants to grow financially, who wants to have real investment, which is profitable, which will grow, which will give them value for their money, which will grow their wealth. But if we move on with this trend of borrowing, every day you have a shortage you want to borrow. You don't want to think to make money. You don't want to think to increase your wealth. The only thing that you want to think is how you can borrow and live on borrowed assets and live on borrowed houses and live on borrowed, cars. Very dangerous. So we are essentially working for the lenders. Ladies and gentlemen, we must speak the truth. And as a financial, expert, I can tell you for sure, if you want to live a comfortable life, which is, free from drama, financial drama, free from, financial degradation, then we must stop the cancer of needless and unnecessary borrowing. And that is my best advice as much as I am concerned. Hope you heard something. Practice that. Be disciplined. Don't just borrow. Borrow when it is extremely necessary to do so. If you do that, your financial independence will be guaranteed. And that could probably be the beginning of a new era for you. And that will be guaranteed growth. Thank you so much. God bless you as you rewind and rethink on your financial plan. Viva financial discipline. Thank you. Oh, yes.